All right, so item one here, no matter what the Fed says, the inflation is not dead. Today's CPI report shows that in spades. We got some other things to talk about, too, talking politics. We got John Carney, Breitbart finance and economics editor, co-author of the daily Breitbart Business Digest. Thanks, John, as always. I mean, I wouldn't say it was a catastrophe, but the reality is they're kind of stuck in the year-on-year change in the CPI is still running 2.5%, 2.6%. The target is 2%, obviously. Right. The core PCE deflator, for those that follow it, 3.3%. The last 4 or 5 months, 3.2%. They're not getting the downward glide path that they had before. And even the 3-month changes, 3.6% on the core CPI. So I don't know. It just goes back. The jumbo rate cut in September, really, I mean, they're going to look back on that. It's a terrible mistake. And they shouldn't have cut. They shouldn't have cut in November either. They should not have cut in September, definitely. November cut really didn't make sense. They really talked themselves into having to do the November cut, just like they talked themselves into having to do the December cut. They're probably going to cut in December again. They shouldn't be doing this. They should have just waited. Look, those numbers you just cited, actually, it went up a little bit. The 0.2% in the headline number that we've been watching, it's been 0.2%, but that's only for 3 months now. That's only before rounding. If you round, you see it actually went up several. It almost rounded up to slightly higher, 0.3%. Well, and then it would have caught a lot of people's attention. And Powell said at his press conference, he looks at core inflation. If you look at the core PCE deflator, I don't want to get too technical, but it's a consumer price deflator. Anyway, it's stopped going down. Yes. And of course, prices never go down. I keep saying this every time I have this discussion. Prices never go down. Once upon a time, Powell said if we overshoot, we could undershoot. But he's overshot inflation for nearly 4 years. He could undershoot now and lets prices fall, but he won't. Right. So you have Trump policies might, but his Fed policy won't. If you look at Cleveland Fed median inflation, it has been exactly the same for 4 months. So the Fed is wrong. Inflation is not returning to its target. It is staying exactly where it is, which is above, which of course creates the risk. If anything tightens up, then you get more inflation. It's not falling, and I don't understand why the Fed won't admit this. Yeah, I mean, Trump has, I think, counter-inflationary fiscal policy. I mean, you talk about the Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. They're going to chop the government down to size. It's going to be terrific. But the point is, I don't want them to be pumping up the money supply and lowering interest rates so Donald Trump in the next year or two has a big inflation back. I don't want that. Just as they shouldn't have pumped up just last summer to try to somehow goose the economy for Kamala. And the other thing is, you write this, I didn't know this, 91% of the Federal Reserve donations go to Democrats, which is outrageous, but you're telling me this is recent. Right. So in this election cycle, 91% going to the Democrats. Almost no, so it was literally 11-1 is another way of thinking about it, dollars that went to Democrats compared to Republicans. It was like that in 2020 as well. But earlier election cycles, it was much more balanced and much lower. The Fed officials were not highly politicized back in 2012, 2008, 2004. You look at the numbers, they're tiny, and the Republicans and Democrats are relatively evenly matched. And in some years, the Republicans even got more. It's now gone extreme. I don't know if this is because of a change in personnel at the Fed. I suspect that it does have something to do with that. They have really tried to change the personnel at the Fed. They're no longer just the kind of paper pushers. They brought in a lot of ideologues, a lot of ESG, DEI ideologues. And therefore, I ask, why should we believe the Fed? That's all. Why should we believe the numbers? Why should we believe the forecasts, which have been so badly wrong? Why should we believe the models? When you look at 91% donations to Democrats in this cycle, you got to ask yourself, what kind of credibility do they have? That's as corrupt as some of these other agencies that we've been talking about? Really? I mean, the august Fed, but they're giving all their money to Democrats, for heaven's sake?
This is
like the college lounge at some Ivy League university, for heaven's sake.
It's worse. They at least have to hire, like 15% conservatives at Harvard. But this is terrible. It really compromises the Fed's credibility as a nonpartisan, independent organization. They are right now a wing of the Democratic Party. They are funding the Democratic Party. Jerome Powell should treat this as an emergency. I wrote this article. He should right now be asking his people, how is it that we have no Republicans, no Trump people on our staff? You guys are either keeping them out or somehow, we've corrupted the water with Trump derangement syndrome and we all lost our minds.
Well, there are some, there are Trump appointees.
Yes.
I mean, look, Jay Powell himself was a Republican appointee. Mickey Bowman is still on that thing. From the St. Louis Fed, he's still on there.
Christopher Waller's there.
Right, Chris Waller. Okay. But you're talking about the bulk of it is the staff.
That's right.
The board staff, whether it's regulations or economics or monetary research and theory and so forth and so on. That's where it sounds like the problem is. Now, last one, we have to get out. Does this include the reserve banks around the country or just the board in Washington?
It's the reserve banks around the country. Actually, the New York Reserve Bank is the worst of all of them. That is really anti-Trump. And frankly, as I said, this should be treated as an emergency for the Fed's credibility. They need to figure out why their staff, and if it was just the top officials, that wouldn't be as bad.
Right.
It's the staff that really runs things, and it's feeding all the data to all of the officials. It's really bad when they're this far left.
All right, John Carney, Breitbart, thank you. Tough story. Somebody's got to ask him at one of these news conferences. Just ask him straight up. They should invite me to the news conference, by the way. All right, I'll invite you.